So what I thought will be interesting, rather than just talking about the thin line between privacy and productivity, which is always a thin line, of course, right? Ultimately, everyone is looking at productivity, how I can make use of data and drive business insights. Of course, privacy pulls us back, and for the right reasons. We need to be responsible while using data so that we are serving our customers and suppliers and whatnot, whatever we are dealing with, and employees, of course, right? Any personal information that we use is used in a responsible way. So that's where data governance plays a critical role. Hence the reason why I called it enabler. And especially every organization is going through this cloud journey. First of all, I did have a talk in the cloud summit, the banking summit that happened 2 weeks ago in Philippines. So I'm reusing some of those conversations here because obviously this is a top of mind topic for everyone, hence the reason why it's a cloud summit. So I thought I'll bring it up with the central bank's the commissioner, right? Mr. Dionco, Mr. Benjamin, you call it, right? And he's talking about digital transformation is a no-brainer. Every organization is going through it, not just banking, not just the major banks, but also the thrift banks that he's talking about, the small to medium banks who are into savings and member-based banking. So it's going down to that level. I mean, it's not even the bigger organizations that we are talking about. And yesterday, I was having a chat with IDC, who are the research organization. They did a CDO survey, and they said the gap is widening between those organizations that are leading the way using data and using it for bringing in business value, and those who are reactive organizations who are basically not using data effectively and waiting for something to happen before they use it, right? And that's a reality. Someone has to push us from outside before we tend to move things, because we are inundated with so many things that we had to do, right? So I thought I'll bring it up as a mandate that, I mean, he has recognized through the pandemic that a digitization is must, a digital transformation is must. And next up, obviously, in the banking world, I mean, this is something, while I was researching on this, I found that the Philippines National Bank, their savings bank arm, they turned it into a digital banking venture, right? And this is the business models are changing. The traditional business are moving away because they're getting disrupted by the market and the trends that we are seeing in the market. And the cloud as what do you call a driver, that is enabling all these to happen. And it is an enabler, right? And that is exactly where things are moving. And Mr. Diokno, right? He did say that obviously moving towards cloud-based is a must. And shifting to cloud must be seen as an opportunity, right? It should be seen as an opportunity by the thrift banks to bring in efficiency, look at new ways to bank, new ways to provide services and products to customers. And of course, I mean, there is always the fintechs who are coming in and disrupting their market as well. And the same applies to every other industry. It's not just banking. I just use banking as an example because, I mean, they are the forefront of any data used to begin with, right? And they are also regulated heavily. Let me just make sure this is, oh boy. Anyways, one of the other things that I found, of course, looking at the OpenGov, they did a study, of course, is they've said that with cloud technologies viewed as the enabler of digital transformation. So this is putting it further and not just from a banking perspective, right? And about 16% of the Philippine businesses said that there are new, what is it? I mean, they're now supportive of using cloud-based IT solutions. Again, the focus is on cloud-based solutions, and there is more and more adoption happening there. And that is an increased trend. Everyone is acknowledging the need for it. And in this pandemic, in the world of pandemic, it is even more so because we are working remotely. There has to be some mechanism through which we can be more agile, we can be more innovative, and so on. So it definitely all these things are pointing towards the fact that cloud is here to stay and cloud technologies are here to stay. And that's our reality. Now, when I was going through, I did some research on what our customers had to say. These are various different customers. I've made sure that protecting their name, but at the same time, just wanted to give you a view of what they had to say. I picked it up from various different industries, just to give you an idea that it's not just specific to an industry. Even the conservative banking world is transforming with cloud. You have the small organizations are moving to the cloud, which is a lot easier. Not just the cloud native organizations who just appeared in this market recently. It is all the traditional businesses are also getting transformed, right? Here in this case, the first one is more like a tire company. If you look at them, they are talking about bringing in innovative ways about what's it called, bringing the tires and installation closer to the customer, to where they live, to where they work, and so on, and getting them changed. The service is changing, the way they supply their tires are changing, right? So that and analyzing the purchase decision, the purchasing data, that is a key thing there, and to make real-time decisions as to where should I deploy my resources, right? And in order to achieve that, obviously, the aging legacy platform that is there that needs to be modernized, which happens in many organizations. Those who have been in the industry for quite a long time, there's always that transformation of IT infrastructure that happens. It is not just that, but it is not just based on the fact that the IT systems need to be modernized. It's more due to the fact that there has to be some innovative ways we can do things. How can I do this in this pandemic world where things are remote? It's not like the good old days or the olden days. The days ahead are much more promising. That's what I would say, right? And then you can see another customer in asset management and warehousing of industrial properties, right? And they're embracing emerging technologies in their space. I'm not talking about IT technologies per se, right? It is about leasing automation. They're talking about IoT-driven warehouse. And then data monetization. They're also looking to monetize their data because they're collecting a lot of information as they manage assets, as they manage warehouses for other companies, right? And then you have also a state department, a revenue department, who are looking at to take advantage of the cloud paradigm. They are specifically calling out the agility and the lowering of the cost. And that is something which is quite common. The chief financial officers love it. How can I cut down costs? How can I bring down the IT infrastructure costs and so on? That is one possibility. In addition to that, it is also facilitating a data-driven department. It is also, any modernization is an opportunity to change the way we look at data internally within an organization. And then they are the ones who are collecting revenue and how they can leverage that. And I'm one of the, we all are a part of that. We get affected by any kind of revenue department coming and collecting taxes or any aspect of that, right? And then finally, what you're seeing is a dealership. What does dealership got to do? Such a car dealership is compared to something which is a big organization, it's a small entity. In spite of that, they're looking at modernizing themselves rather than face-to-face delivery. They need to do it online, and they created their first business-to-consumer website for buyers. And there are many websites that are available, but some of them are getting disrupted now, even more so. Their loyal customers are also disappearing. They need a mechanism to do it online, right? And ability for that to happen, how could they ramp up pretty quickly and so on? And cloud is again enabling that journey. Not just cloud, analytics is a part of that driver, right? And this is specific to banking, doesn't mean that it is just applying to banking, right? Here, some of the key things that I just wanted to highlight, obviously, is the changing customer expectations. Each and every one of us, the way we do banking has changed. I was mentioning in the banking summit as well, when I go for morning walks, I tend to look at my phone, make some payments that are needed. I don't have to wait for me to come to my laptop. I can do the transactions, the banking transactions over the phone while I'm walking. The expectations is everything needs to be at my fingertip. How can I enable that experience for my customers? Whether it is banking or any retail sense, we have retailers now online, how do we ensure that we provide that service as seamless as possible? That's the key, right? And there are many more. The changing business models, I spoke about it earlier, right? Things are getting disrupted. And when you go into the cloud, of course, the regulatory environment gets tighter and tighter, right? And then, of course, the cost optimization, other things come into play. And then the fraud and crime, which is a part of that ever increasing one. In fact, I would say when you move to the cloud vendors typically are responsible, which means that their security will be a lot tighter than what it would be if you were to have your own infrastructure. Now, this is a generic one. It's a state of the cloud report where it talks about 92% of the enterprise have multi-cloud strategy, which basically means that there are customers who will have the Azures of the world, the AWS or Google or other any local cloud providers as well. They might use certain services from each of these as it's applicable. And this is, by the way, this is a global report, right? There was a 451 analysts who are basically a part of the Standard & Poor S&P Global. They came up with a study and they said it's more than 95% of the organizations have some form of cloud presence within their organization, right? So it's here to stay. Everyone has some cloud presence globally. It is a question of how far you want to go. Is it going to be 100% cloud or is it going to be a mixed bag based on use cases? That's what it dictates. And then hybrid cloud strategy, that's what I was talking about, right? Where I might still have certain applications sitting on premise while things like analytics or some workloads can move to the cloud, which is more appropriate for me to deal with. And that can be due to various reasons, including the privacy and security aspect of it that might be the driver behind it, right? And then there are organizations, almost 42 of them, dealing with the cloud and on-prem. And it's a combination of different numbers that are popping out. 60% of the PII data will be in the cloud. That is the projection, right? What it basically is trying to say is, yeah, we will have to put the personal information, but we also need to protect it and manage it in a way it is not getting exposed in the wrong hands. That's what it means. But it's here to stay. All these numbers are driving the fact that cloud adoption across the board, across industries is happening and it is here to stay. And that'll continue to evolve. And it'll also bring in not only efficiencies, but also opportunity for innovation, opportunity for sharing, and so on. Now, I just want to bring, given that Informatica has been in the space of data management, we've been looking at data irrespective of whether it is on-premise or on the cloud. Data is data for us. And how do we ensure that we manage the data effectively, which is critical. It is just like managing the corporate affairs. You need data is critical, which means that you need to manage your data effectively. So some of the things that we talk about is obviously data rationalization and transparency. Rationalization, what it means is obviously when you adopt cloud, you need to look at your data estate that is on-premise, understand how much of that is getting used. That transparency brings in that visibility into whether there are duplicate assets that are getting created or something that has been created and never getting used by any users. What is the usage of that? That rationalization is critical. I have some examples at the end. I'll talk about the rationalization around reports and some data artifacts. The other aspect is obviously access and integration. Many organizations are in a data fragmentation ecosystem. The data is fragmented across due to various reasons. Over time, applications and systems have been built, and the data sits in silos and fragmentation, which means that access is a challenge. How do I transform the data so that it's meaningful for my analytics use case or for any of the consumption, and integration becomes critical. Of course, as a part of this data, it has to be fit for whatever purpose you're using it, which means that even though you might say that some data is sitting okay, its data quality is fine in a system, as soon as you pull it together and into my lens that I'm seeing where I want to consume it for creating some marketing campaigns, or whether it is to improve my operational efficiency, If it's a manufacturing, how do I improve my process, manufacturing process? What is data telling me? How do I make use of the data? While I'm using it for various different outcomes, data might not be fit for that purpose. That's where data quality issues come in. How do I resolve them? Right? That is key. And then, of course, understanding of the data. Even before you do any of this, you need to understand the data, what it is meant for, why did we create it, who owns that data, so that we can have an informed understand. I mean, we can have a good understanding of what this data means, what is it used for, what is the purpose, how is it getting used currently, so that we can make that informed decision. How could I use it for my activity? And then finally, the protection aspect of it. While we are doing all of these, how do I protect the data? That's critical. Now, all these are challenges that we have been grappling in the the world of on-premise, where we have dealt with, and we have come up with quite a number of capabilities in there. And that continues whether you move to the cloud or not. It doesn't disappear automatically. One of the customers eloquently put it, right? They said, oh, we moved into cloud and we moved our data across, and we moved the data as is thinking that things will be fine once we move to the cloud. Definitely not. Users are still complaining that their reports are inconsistent, they're still getting incorrect information, and so on, which means that data itself need to be managed and governed in order for the users to get the benefit. It is not just because you've moved to the cloud that things will just sort of magically get solved. So just wanted to give you a perspective that it is not something that vendors are doing it. It is an industry-wide effort. There are so many challenges that are being faced by organizations. So hence why EDM is an industry body. It is, even though it started off in the banking and financial service world, it has got members in every single industry right now. So it's called Enterprise Data Management Council, EDM, and they've been in the space of providing best practices and various different educational, informational outputs to various members and customers. Since 2004, 2005, they've been in this market. Their primary focus is on data management, data governance, data analytics, and so on. Right? Cloud is something that many customers came together and asked them to come up with a best practice guide and some capability framework, which is what they came up with as recently as last month. And this is just a testimony of cloud is here to stay. We are going to be managing data in the cloud even more so as every day passes by, that data volumes continue to grow. Just like IDC had mentioned last year that we are generating about 59 zettabyte of data globally. Out of that, close to 20 to 22 zettabyte comes out of our region, Asia Pacific, Japan, right? And I used to jokingly say that, I mean, more than 50% of that is probably duplicate, that 59 zettabyte we're talking about. Various reasons, right? And the visibility drives that efficiency as well. So in this case here, they're categorizing it as governance and accountability, cataloging, classification. All these things are critical foundational capabilities that are needed in order to support that. You don't have to have all of them in one go, but that just gives you the guideline. Why am I sharing this with you? Why I'm sharing this is because cloud is here to stay and everyone is adopting it globally, irrespective of what size of the organization it is, what industry you're in. Hence the reason why they had this problem statement: consistent industry best practices, applying data management capabilities while migrating data and applications and operations to cloud environments, right? Challenges, obviously, the cloud implementation, they face a variety of issues, and then they are launching this working group, and the working group came up with these. It's not just the council working with the working group, which is made up of customers as well as vendors like us, joining hands to come up with a bunch of best practices, right? So how do we map it out? And this is something that we have been talking about for quite some time as Informatica, being in this space. Data is a critical asset. How do we ensure that we enable that data-driven digital transformation journey that organizations are going through, right? First is understanding your data. A data catalog capability will go uncover what's out there in your existing IT infrastructure, or into the new world where you move into the cloud. And you'll be transitioning from your on-prem world to the cloud for some time before you fully migrate, if that's your plan. Ability to get visibility into where the data is getting generated, where is it going, where is it consumed is key, right? And then the understanding of the language you speak while we do business. That's where the stakeholdership, all that aspect of governance. Governance is no longer about control. It is not about holding things back. It is providing you with the responsibility and enabling you to make use of data in a responsible way. That's the role of governance, and it's an enabler in every sense. And then trust becomes the aspect that I spoke about earlier, right? Quality, ability for consumers to understand whether I can trust the data that I'm using for whatever purpose I'm using it for. It could be someone who's more a data owner, understanding that am I providing this information or should I be managing it better? That's critical. And then comes, of course, data privacy, and then further to consumption. Before I consume, I need to have this foundational capability. What policies are dictating my data? Before marketplace style, which marketplace is nothing but a shopping experience for data, just like what we do for eBay and Amazon, where you buy products. So trust as a concept is not just based on data quality, it is also based on user feedback. Just like when we go shop on eBay or Amazon, where you look at other users, what they have to say about a product, what is their feedback. Similarly, you want to know how others have used a particular data asset. What does it mean to them? What is their feedback? Is a rating making sense for me that I should leverage? So those comments will help you understand how they've used it. Is it applicable to me or not? And then I can make an informed decision. And then secondly, from a data privacy perspective, what usage policies does that data set have? So they're given enough information to make a decision whether it is the right data set for them, for their purpose or not, whatever they're using it for, whether it is for building a new campaign, or it's like a cross-sell upsell campaign. If it is for something like making an offering into the market, how do I do that? Product creation and so on. How do I know whether these data sets are giving me the right information? So this all these capabilities form a part of the foundational capability in support of how someone is consuming the data. Cloud modernization is a way, and it is a mechanism through which you can access things a lot quicker. You don't have to wait. We had customers who said that in the past, they had to wait for 8 months before they could get a server ready so they could start doing some work. Gone are those days. Things are getting deployed a lot quicker. That is the advantage of cloud. The pricing, the commercial conversations have changed with cloud. It is consumption based. It is as a service capabilities are coming in. So you don't have to worry about managing infrastructure. You don't have to worry about having a set of people just focusing on what servers you need to have. It's managed centrally. You can focus on your data, how you manage it, and then deliver that value to those business outcomes that you're looking to do. I just wanted to give you with a few examples. I mean, there's a bank, it's a smaller bank in Australia. They embarked on this cloud journey. They wanted to move to cloud within 2 years. And they were embarked on this cloud journey last year. And they're going through this cycle. And one of the key drivers for them is improved customer service. And there's a secure open banking. Open banking is about how do I share data with other third party? And then governance and privacy is a critical aspect of that. And then this is the other one that I mentioned about the data rationalization. Here, this organization is a not-for-profit organization managing healthcare plans in the US, right? And they have members, it's in a small state. It's a state level small organization, but they are moving to Azure. While they were moving to Azure, they were looking at their existing landscape. They were moving into Power BI from their SSRs. They're already a Microsoft customer, and they had built about 900 reports in SSRs. And majority of their data movement was happening through the SQL Server stored procedures. I know I'm going a bit technical there, but I'm just giving you, there is conversation by the customer. There's a link that is provided there, which gives you a link to the webinar that we had with the customer. They cover their journey as a part of that. So they're moving to the cloud. Before they move to the cloud, they were bringing in a lot of efficiencies and cost reduction. One of the key things is cost. Second thing is efficiency, because if you move everything from on-premise to the cloud and putting into a lake, it's still finding a needle in a haystack. I don't know what data is applicable to me. I don't have any context around those data assets that are moved into the cloud. I should be able to get that context. It's important. So they embarked on the data governance journey and a data catalog solution to tag, bring in that visibility into the assets they had before they moved to the cloud. And they, in the process, they rationalized some of that. They decommissioned about 300 odd reports, which is so much of a problem in every organization. We've collected so much of data assets, half of it is not getting used. How can we get rid of it? Right? This gives us an opportunity while we are moving to the cloud, or any modernization activity helps us take a stock of what we have right now, rationalize it, and move ahead. And the final comment, I mean, this is UNC Health is again a not-for-profit medical system. It's again a part of a small state in the US. And one of the things that they were doing, even prior to COVID kicking in, they embarked on a digital transformation journey. That definitely helped them. And this highlights how digital transformation has been effective. When COVID kicked in, within a week, they were able to produce those dashboards and reports that were required by the executives there to produce to the parliament. They were able to provide that information. How could they deploy their resources to the right place at the right time? They had the data at their fingertip that enabled their organization. So they called the data governance solution as Empower. They tagged it as Empower to support that journey, right? And that critical aspect of delivered that executive dashboards in a weekend, enabling the health system to assess and manage resources for the COVID-19 pandemic. Time is of the essence when it comes to those responses with COVID-19. Life is at stake, right? And just like that, any industry for that matter, you can apply to any industry. How do I provide just-in-time service to customers who are stuck at home, whatever that might be? How can I innovate? How can I transform my business model to support these new demands that are coming in, especially people working from home, homeschooling happening, change in working conditions and so on? How do we enable that? How do I provide the services and products to support that? That's the key. So these are some of the things that I wanted to touch on. I mean, we could go on and on about it. Sorry, I have a hard stop because I'm presenting at another event straight after this. Hopefully this was of use. I mean, I'm just bringing in some trends globally, bringing in some examples from other parts of the world to provide you with a view of cloud modernization is here to stay. There's a lot of advantages with that, but of course, data management is a critical aspect and data governance is a critical aspect in that journey, supporting you so that you have a good understanding. It's like a GPS navigating, and it's providing you a map as to where to go from A to B once you move to the cloud.